Chris, I don't think I can say goodbye to you.
No one is saying goodbye, my love. I'll never leave you. Never. Just tell our story. No need to make anything up. Just tell them the truth. Good evening.
Hello, I'm Claire Lim. This is Enemy, and I'm here with Olivia Colman and David Thewlis, who play Susan and Christopher Edwards in the new miniseries Landscapers.
Hi, Claire. Pleasure.
Hi.
So before I start, I would like you guys to describe in your own words what Landscapers is all about. Olivia, if you want to say a few words.
Okay, Landscapers is a true crime drama like you've never seen before. So it's sumptuous, and it goes into Susan and Christopher Edwards have a story of what happened 15 years previously when a crime was committed, and they've spent 15 years honing that story. And Landscapers, rather beautifully, you go into their imagination, the way they tell their story. You go into her flights of fancy, where they're both cowboys. You have, it's like nothing you've seen before, and it's told very empathetically from the point of view, particularly of from Susan's point of view, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to get onto that actually, because I think Susan's character was really intriguing, and I love the way that it was written and directed. It's a beautiful series, actually.
Yay, great, thanks.
I really enjoyed it. I couldn't stop watching it, which is great. I'm a sucker for these things anyway, but it was different. It was definitely different.
Yeah.
Olivia, and then I'm going to get on to David about the script. But Olivia, your husband Ed wrote Landscapers, and I was wondering during that process, do you get a little sneak peek? Does he talk to you about it, or does he just give you the finished product? Like, what were you?
Mainly the finished product. I mean, he would go in. He works on lots of things, but this really took him. He was absorbed in it, and there were a couple of moments when can I just show you something? And is this too much? Which was during the police interrogation, where she's talking to the police, but then goes into the story world. And he said, is this too weird that it would go in between the two things? And I went, no, this is great. What a lovely thing to perform, because you never get the chance to do that. And then I wanted to read more, and you go, no, okay, that's all I wanted to know. And then then I wouldn't hear about it for a year, and then so I was desperate to see what was happening.
It's I love those elements. I love those parts where it takes you out of a sort of something that's maybe filmed very typically for television. Yeah. And then it feels very theatrical in at some points as well, which I really enjoyed. I imagine it must have been really fun to work on that. David, how fun was it to work on Landscapers?
It was one of the most fun things ever, really, for all sorts of reasons. I mean, it was really, not too much to say. Just everyone was having a very good time. Not just all the actors, but all the creative departments. You can imagine, obviously, it was great for us. But if you think of this from the point of view of the costume designers, the hair and makeup people, the production designers, obviously the director, the DP, everyone was a little relieved to be doing something that was breaking down so many barriers, where there could be experimental as Ed had been in the first place, and then to be handed that to Will, to give it to us, to give it to hair and makeup. We could have wigs that come on and off, and we're not going to age you with CGI. That's a job for us as actors to go between the ages. So it was all a lot of things that we'd never really get chance to do in other shows.
Yeah.
Olivia, you mentioned Susan and be empathizing or being quite empathetic towards this character. I love the way actually that it's written, because we delve a lot into Susan's fantasy life and her rich imagination. And I was wondering if there was, when you were reading the script, if you could empathize with this or any other elements of her character personally.
Well, I understand what it's like to love someone very much, and I never want to be tested to that degree, but to be, and you're the same. You and your wife, and we and Ed, and we both really understand what that absolute dedicated love is. And to see these people tested to extraordinary degrees, and having to cope with that for 15 years. I mean, that's I think if you love someone enough, you can get through a long time. But ultimately, it was too stressful, wasn't it? And that's why Chris wanted it to stop.
There's a lot of quite emotionally intense moments for your characters solo and together. I was wondering, as actors, just generally speaking, when you cut, do you just have a big old laugh, or how do you not take that home with you because it's so intense on set?
Well, whenever people ask this, I've always thought if you can really throw yourself in and get everything out and do everything you have to do, feels like it's great. You actually can go home feeling, it's very cathartic. It's a bit like a sort of, if you were at some therapist group where you've got to shout and be angry, you feel much better afterwards.
Yeah.
I think actors are probably, and this is a sweeping statement, but it feels like we're pretty relaxed. Is that nonsense?
No, I agree totally. And sometimes it's actually, there's a sort of sense of the ridiculous sometimes when you've gone so deep into emotion, and then they just shout cut and you realise you're in a room with all kinds of people. But actually it becomes funny.
Someone's in the corner doing that.
A lot of the crew are often not listening. Like these guys now are paying
so
attention.
bored.
You're crying your eyes out and someone's just like scratching their bum.
Yeah.
It's different with different actors. I did work with one actress. I won't say who it was, but she had a crying scene, and she didn't stop crying.
Oh no!
She didn't stop crying for a long time.
Oh goodness!
Yeah. If she does a crying scene, she goes, "I can't. I'll be all right in a minute." She's fine. She can still chat and have a cup of tea, but it just takes a while to dry up.
God, she's having a cup of tea.
I'm fine.
Yeah. It's actually much harder to laugh, I find, on camera. To fake laughing is really, really tough.
David, I wanted to ask, because this is NME, and NME do music and stuff as well. And I know that you appeared on Top of the Pops via Only Fools and Horses. I too have been on Top of the Pops, but German Top of the Pops 20 years ago. Yes, that's a story.
What's German Top of the Pops called?
It's just Top of the Pops.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to ask you what your time was like on Top of the Pops, and if you had to do it differently, would you go down the music route?
Well, that's what I wanted to be. I mean, that isn't my appearance on Top of the Pops is not connected to I was in a band when I was younger, but I was in a joke. I was on Only Fools and Horses. So,
yes.
And the story was that the band in the show, Rodney got kicked out of the band, and we went on Top of the Pops, and so they shot that on a Thursday night with a real Top of the Pops crowd, and we were of course doing a dumb kind of Only Fools and Horses song, and but they didn't tell the audience that, so they were all dancing like that, going like, "Is this in the charts?" Because it was awful song. It's called "Boys Will Be Boys" with Danny Peacock singing. But it was great. My main memory of that is I got to meet the Ramones. The one of the Ramones came into my dressing room just off chance, and actually asked me if I had some skins.
Oh,
exciting!
That's very cool.
But yeah, that was a big buzz for me. Yeah.
And did he say that was a terrible song, mate? Oh.
They hadn't heard it. Actually, they were on the Old Grey Whistle test. I think they were not on Top of the Pops, but they were in the next dressing room to me, and I couldn't. Just literally a knock on the door. Joey Ramone walked in, and I was just like,
"That's very cool." Well, thank you very much. That's all we've got time for, and honestly, I've like 10,000 other questions I'd love to ask you, but all I'm going to say is I hope that everybody watches this, because you are both fantastic, and it's so beautifully written and directed, and you guys do a brilliant job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.